fly I'm tying up today is called the August Brown. Chose this fly for a couple of different reasons. I've been tying a number of soft hackles that are good for early spring, or I should say even early summer up through, a lot of times when your hatches are coming off the water in March, April, May, and even early June. This fly was developed for clear water in the fall season, August and September, hence the name, the August Brown. The other reason I chose it has a little bit of dubbing on the body, and it uses some silk thread for just a very basic, simple rib. And I thought it would be a good fly to show, that if you're wanting to add a little accent like a rib or something, you don't have to have certain materials. If you don't have any mylar or any wire or anything like that, just use some tying thread. Tying thread not only can hold a fly together, but it can also be used as part of the material in that fly. So that's it. That's the August Brown. I thought it would be a simple, straightforward pattern to do, and I'll go ahead and get started. Start the August Brown by placing my hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 3906 in size 14. Go ahead and debarb the hook. For thread on this, I'm using Pearsall's brown silk. I want to go ahead and wax this, so I'm just running the thread through my tying wax and then running it through my fingers just to smooth it out. I'm going to attach the thread right behind the eye of the hook and advance my thread maybe about a third of the way down the hook shank. The August Brown, at least this version, has a rib on it. The rib is made out of some yellow silk. So I'm using some Pearsall's yellow silk for this. All I'm going to do is cut off a length of the silk thread, and I'm going to attach it to the shank and wind down, covering up, fixing that rib along the shank as I put a base layer of thread all along the hook. Now the body on this has a light dubbing to it, and the dubbing is Hare's mask. So I'm just using regular natural Hare's mask. I'm using the hair that's off the ears right here. It's a little bit darker. It's not as long. This fly would actually, the dubbing on this would lend itself to a technique called touch dubbing. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use a little bit of dubbing wax on my finger to get a very, very, very sparse body on this. I generally don't use dubbing waxes when I'm just doing a direct dubbing like this, but there are some times where what you need is a little bit of wax, but you really need the wax on your finger, not on the thread, because what I need is some tackiness on my fingers to be able to just take a very, very sparse amount of hair and twist it onto the thread without building up a lot of bulk. I just want it to look a little shaggy, that's all. So as you can see, I'm not putting much on here at all. I'm not trying to build up a bulky body. The other thing is I've started the dubbing, in this case, maybe about 3/8 of an inch down below the hook shank. I haven't slid this up to the hook shank. And the reason for that is that this August Brown calls for 3 to 4 wraps of just plain brown dubbing in the back, or I should say plain brown thread in the back, before you start to apply that dubbing. And see, the dubbing on this is just adding a little bit of bushiness to it, and that's it. We don't want to add a whole lot of bulk. I'll stop about a hook eye length behind the eye of the hook, or maybe half an eye length, and then I'll attach the rib. Five evenly spaced wraps, and trim away the excess. So I'm now ready to put my hackle in. I'm using a grouse. This is a ruffed grouse. For the hackle on this, I'm going to be using the darker feathers right here in the back of this skin. One thing you want to be cautious of is you want to choose a feather that has more of a rounded end to it. Although this one has some barbs that can be used in here for the collar, it has very few that are of the right size. It tends to go from long to very short pretty quick. Whereas one of the more rounder feathers, and I find these generally are on the sides of the skin, tends to have more barbs on it that are the length that you're wanting for the fly. When you peel these off, at least on the ruffed grouse, there's a whole lot of really, really nice after shaft feathers. Like this right here. These are used in a pattern by Jack Gartside called the Gartside Sparrow. Normally you would get those off of the pheasants as well as where two other items in that fly come from, but the ruffed grouse has got some excellent after shafts. So set those aside, put them in a little baggie, and hold on to them. And I'm going to start peeling off the excess fluff from the butt end of this feather, because if I'm not careful, I can actually snap the rachis right down in where it gets thin, and it makes it harder to palmer this on. Just keep working your way down, taking out barbs that are too long. We want to get to where the barbs are about a hook length long. You could go a little shorter if you want, or a little bit longer. It's up to you, but I tend to like mine about a hook length long. I'll grab the tip of that with my hackle pliers and then stroke back the fibers, getting them out of the way so that I can just cut the tip of that, and I've got a little anchor to tie that in. Now the tips of these can be very delicate. Once you get this wrapped in, I think it's pretty sturdy, but initially that first wrap, that very tip can be awfully delicate, so you want to be careful. Don't pull and tug on this too hard. Start to palm that around. Once you get a turn in there, it will start to get a little stronger for you. Work your way up. I've got about 2 turns there. Anchoring that rachis in, I'll fold it back, and then from the eye of the hook, make the head of the fly. This is not a pronounced head on this August brown, but you just want to keep it kind of small. 3 or 4 turn whip finish. Trim away the thread. And then I'll put a little half drop of head cement on both sides, like that. That'll soak down in there and anchor in that hackle so that it will last a little bit longer. If you have any stray hairs, some of the guard hairs in your hare's mask, get in there. I like to trim them out. All I'm looking for, as I said before, is just just a chunky, not super chunky, I shouldn't say that, but just a fuzzy body. Looks like it has a little bit of bulk to it, but that's it. I'm not looking for anything that's looking, really fat and shaggy. So there you go. There is your August brown. Fun little small soft hackle fly, not much to it. You don't have the rough grouse, use some other grouse if you've got it. If not, I think the brownish hackles off the back of a Hungarian partridge would work, even some speckled hen hackles. It's just a fun fly to tie. You don't have to rush out and get a grouse skin just to tie this fly. Good fly for in the fall months, in the August and September months, when the water's running a lot clearer. Hope you enjoyed that. That's the August brown. Thanks for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned at least a new pattern, if not a new technique, maybe a tip or trick here and there. If you have any questions about this fly or any of the techniques used in constructing this pattern, please leave them in the comments section down below. If you go to the trouble to ask a question, I'll go to the trouble to answer it. If you'd like to help dressed irons, please share this video with your friends and anybody you think that might enjoy this pattern. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong.